Today, I'm going to show you how to kick that Griffin's ass in hard Doom Tower. What is going on, Raiders? Soda Dragon here, and today we are tackling one of the harder new Doom Tower bosses, Grythion the Griffin. So what I'm going to give you today is what I think is the best strategy for free-to-play players and low spenders in the hard Doom Tower. So there are only two legendaries in this composition, one of which, Syl, is a free login champ, and the other, Drexlar, can be bought in the bazaar. All the other champs in this composition can be substituted as long as you have champs that can do their same job. And we'll talk about team composition and strategy in a second. But first, let's talk about Grythion the Griffin and go over his skills. Let's start with Grythion's A1, Shockwave. Attacks one enemy. Has a 100% chance of placing a fear debuff for one turn. Damage based on attack. So Grythion cycles between this single target attack and two AoE attacks. So the good news about this attack is that the fear can be resisted if you have enough resistance. The bad news is that it hits really hard, just like all of Grythion's attacks. On to Grythion's A2, Rock Smash. Transfers all debuffs from Grythion to each enemy, then attacks all enemies. Fills Grythion's turn meter by 5% for each debuff transferred. Damage based on attack. So this is on a 3-turn cooldown. So what you really have to remember here is that you cannot load up Grythion with too many debuffs. Because on a 3-turn cooldown, every 3 turns he's going to throw back all those debuffs to your whole team. So once again, you need to be really careful with which debuffs you throw up on Grythion. On to Grythion's A3, Death Gust. Removes all buffs from all enemies, then attacks all enemies. The buff removal cannot be resisted. Damage increases by 10% for each buff removed. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown. So this A3 is Grythion's opening move. Now he will cycle with his A3, A2, and then A1. A3, A2, and then A1. So he'll continue that cycle. And also notice here, he removes the buffs from all allies, which can't be resisted, before attacking. So that means this hit hurts, okay? Because he's taking away all your defense up, ally protection, block damage. He's taking that all the way before he attacks you, okay? And as I mentioned, this is going to be his opening move, and he's just going to continue to cycle through all his moves. A3, A2, A1. Next, let's talk about Grythion's first passive, Divine Strike. Attacks an enemy whenever their HP drops below 50%. This attack places a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. So guys, this one just hits like a truck. So it's so sad to see when your characters drop below 50% and they get that crazy lightning strike that just beats them down further, and they get the heal reduction. So how do you deal with that heal reduction? Because they can't get their HP back up, right? That's 100% heal reduction. Firstly is resistance. Secondly is block debuffs, that works. And lastly, you can also just cleanse. So if you have a cleanser on the team, that's really helpful for this debuff. On to Grythion's second passive, Celestial Bond. Adds 1 Sky Bond buff to Grythion at the start of each turn. Also adds 1 Sky Bond buff to Grythion whenever an enemy's HP drops below 50%. Each Sky Bond buff increases Grythion's attack by 5%, crit rate by 3%, crit damage by 5%, speed by 2.5%. Will ignore shield, block damage, and unkillable buffs when Grythion has 10 or more Sky Bond buffs. Can stack up to 20 Sky Bond buffs. Sky Bond buffs cannot be blocked or removed. So basically at 20 Sky Bonds, Grythion has double the attack, 60% more crit rate, double the crit damage, and plus 50 speed. So how do we deal with these Sky Bonds? Well, the first strategy involves killing Grythion as quickly as possible and not allowing those Sky Bonds to build up. So if you look at the people with the fastest clear times, for Grythion, you'll notice that they use a ton of ally attack champions. So if you have a lot of them, go ahead and make use of them. Once again, that seems like the fastest way to clear this boss if you have a lot of those ally attack champions. But our strategy is not going to involve any ally attack champions. So if you don't have any, don't worry. On to Grythion's third passive, Fair Wind. Whenever Grythion's turn meter is decreased, the turn meters of all enemies will be decreased by the same amount. Places a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies with fully depleted turn meters. Whenever an enemy turn meter is filled, Grythion's turn meter will be filled the same amount. Turn meter increases are tracked and counted individually for each enemy. So how do we deal with this? Well, basically this passive means that turn meter manipulation strategies won't work, right? Because if we try to decrease Grythion's turn meter, what happens? Our whole team's turn meter gets reduced. So we're basically at the same place that we started, right? And similarly, if we try to increase or boost our own turn meter on our team, what happens? Grythion's gets boosted. So we're not getting anywhere. So basically turn meter strategies are really thrown out of the window. So what does the sentence mean? Places a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies with fully depleted turn meters. Basically, it means that anyone that tries to reduce Grythion's turn meter will be stunned. Now, is this stun resistible? Yes, but this shouldn't read like this because this is confusing. Basically, anyone that tries to reduce Grythion's turn meter will be stunned. Now, the stun is resistible, yes, but that's the way it should read and not like this. One further reason why turn meter decreasing strategies don't really work for Grythion. On to Grythion's next passive, Almighty Strength. Damage from skills that scale based on enemy max HP cannot exceed 10% of the boss's max HP when attacking the boss. So what this means is basically that champions like Coldheart, Septimus, and Royal Guard, etc., people that have damage based on enemy max HP, champs like that will see limited use with Grythion because their damage cannot exceed 10% of Grythion's health. On to the next passive, Almighty Persistence. All turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against the boss. So we really don't have to worry about this one since turn meter reduction and manipulation strategies don't work at all with this boss. On to Grythion's last passive, Almighty Immunity. Immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block active skills, block passive skills, fear, and true fear debuffs. Also immune to HP exchange effects, HP balancing effects, and cooldown increasing effects. So basically this means we cannot stop Grythion from freely taking his turns or using his skills. He will always go A3, A2, A1 in that cycle. There is nothing we can do about that. Alright guys, so what is the strategy to beat Grythion if we don't have a ton of ally attack champions? So first, our strategy for offense. 99% of our damage is going to come from HP burn and War Master procs. So Drexthar Blood Twin is going to be really important to this composition because not only can he apply HP burn when he's hitting, but also when he's being hit because of his passive right here, Fiery Blood. Has a 55% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns on the attacker when hit. This champion's resistance increases by 10 for every enemy under an HP burn debuff. Stacks up to 50%. So when booked, this goes all the way up to 75% chance for Drexthar to apply an HP burn when he's hit. Okay, so basically with Drexthar, the whole time he will be burning up Grythion. By the way, don't worry about booking out Drexthar. He works great even when unbooked. So that was the first part of our offensive strategy, HP burn. Remember, the second part is War Master procs. So here, War Master is a tier 6 offense mastery, has a 60% chance of inflicting bonus damage when attacking. bonus damage is equal to 10% of the target champion's max HP or 4% of the target's max HP when attacking bosses. Bonus damage can only occur once per skill and does not count as an extra hit. So basically everybody on the team will have War Master. All 5 people, okay? So even if you substitute out some people, as I mentioned, that can do similar jobs, you don't have to have the exact same team as me. Everyone must have War Master. That is not negotiable. So that was the offense. What about the defense? How do we survive? So the first thing is going to be building our champs up with a lot of HP and a lot of defense. How do we do this? With HP percentage or defense percentage, gloves, and chest pieces. Okay, so almost everybody is going to have either HP percentage or defense percentage, gloves, and chest pieces. So what about the boots? Stick with speed boots. You do not want to be too slow against this boss. Now it's going to be difficult to outspeed him while building a tanky character because remember, with his sky bonds, he gets more speed with each sky bond. So eventually, no matter how fast your characters are, he's probably going to start outspeeding you. So do not neglect your speed, put on speed boots. So the second part of our survival strategy involves healers and revivers. I probably don't have to explain too much about that one. So the last part of our survival strategy, and maybe the most important and underrated, is that we need to have the strong version of the attack down debuff on Grythion the whole time. Now this is an old school clan boss strategy, but it works. All the time, we need to have that strong version attack down debuff on Grythion. Think about it, guys. If the boss is hitting you half as hard, how long can you survive? Well, twice as long, right? And this is one of the easiest ways to last longer in the clan boss. Just put that attack down debuff on the clan boss and you will literally survive twice as long. Why? He's hitting you half as hard as he normally does. Same thing applies here. We need that strong version attack down debuff on Grythion the whole time. So similarly, when we're building non-unkillable teams for clan boss, we want champions that can apply that strong version attack down on their A1 skill with a high percentage. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for attack down on their A2 or A3. We are looking for attack down on champions A1 skill with a high percentage. So here are a few champs that can apply that attack down debuff on their A1s. So here we have Veteran, a rare. When booked, he has a 50% chance of applying that attack down for 2 turns on his A1. And he's also void as well, so you don't have to worry about affinity. Coffin Smasher is another great rare choice. His A1 is a triple hitter, and every hit when booked has a 30% chance of placing that strong version attack down debuff. A great old school epic choice for attack down on the A1 is Tyrell. So he has a double hitter on his A1, and when booked, each hit has a 50% chance of placing that strong version attack down for 2 turns. A great legendary choice is Altan if you guys have gotten lucky in pulling him. So his A1 when booked has a 75% chance of placing that strong version attack down for 2 turns. So Grush, who we'll be using and who is also a great login champion, does have that attack down on his A2 skill. But unfortunately, when booked, that is a 4-turn cooldown on that skill. And that attack down is only applied for 2 turns. And it's either attack down or crit damage down. So sometimes you won't even get the attack down. So consider Grush's debuffs icing on the cake. He cannot be your main attack down debuffer. So who am I using for my A1 attack down on Grythion? It's going to be Jarek. I love this dude. I've loved him ever since the old school non-unkillable clan boss days. If you got him in those old days, man, he was so powerful. Not only for his attack down on his A1, but for the rest of his skills that bring so much survivability to your whole team. Now, when booked, he only has a 60% chance to apply that attack down. So it's not as high as some of the other characters we've seen, but as I mentioned, he brings so much else to the table in terms of survivability. So Jarek, if you got him, he is wonderful for this role. Pull him out of the vault or wherever you have him, build him up. He's perfect, trust me. All right, guys, so we've talked about our offensive strategy with the HP burn and the War Master procs doing 99% of the damage. We talked about our defensive strategies. Remember, building up our characters with high HP, high defense. We need revivers, we need healers, and also we need a champion with attack down, the strong version, on their A1. So we got the defensive strategy down. This last thing I'm gonna basically call things to avoid. So this is part 3 of our strategy. And I don't really hear people talk about it this much, but this is so important. So part 3 is gonna be things to avoid. So what should we avoid when fighting Grythion? Too many debuffs. So we should avoid too many debuffs. Now I know this sounds weird because in Raid, usually against enemies, we stack the debuffs, right? We love seeing that debuff bar completely full, 10 debuffs. We normally love doing that. What's the problem with Grythion then? It's his A2 Rock Smash. What is he gonna do? Every 3 turns, he is going to transfer all of the debuffs that we've put on him to each and every one of our characters. So take, for example, Lydia here. Let's say we use Lydia's A2 and we put that defense down and weaken, the strong versions, on Grythion. Now, normally you would think, awesome, right? We're doing more damage to Grythion, and yeah, we are. But what happens when he uses that Rock Smash? Remember, we can't stop him from using it. We can't put his skills on cooldown. We can't stun him. We can't fear him. We cannot stop him from using it every 3 turns. Okay? So now he transfers that weaken and defense down to us. And if you know how hard Grythion hits, think about how hard he would hit you if you had weaken and defense down on you. You're dead. You're dead. That's it. Attack down and HP burn. Those are the only 2 debuffs you need for Grythion. And yes, I'm talking about Grythion Hard Doom Tower all the way up. Those are the only 2 debuffs you need. So getting an HP burn thrown back on us, it's not too bad, it's manageable. So what about attack down? Well, that is no big deal at all. Okay, once again, the majority of our damage is coming from those War Master procs, right? You need to have that War Master mastery on every character in your team. And War Master is not affected by attack down. So don't worry, that is irrelevant to us whether we have attack down or not. We're still gonna do huge damage with those War Master procs. Alright guys, let's talk about the gear and the champs, starting with Drexthar. So here you see I have him in a perception set, so accuracy plus 40 and speed plus 5%, and also in a lifesteal set, so heals by 30% of damage dealt. Now this lifesteal set, it really pairs well with the War Master Mastery, because once that procs and you get those big damage numbers off against the boss, that counts with the lifesteal set. So you're gonna get a big chunk of health back with the lifesteal plus that mastery. Okay, so it's always a great combination, also with that life drinker mastery as well. Those 3 pair really well for keeping your guys alive. And the perception set, just because accuracy is required on Drexthar to apply his HP burns. So with the hardest Doom Tower Grythion, it's gonna be 330 resistance. So that's the absolute max, okay? So you're gonna need some accuracy to match that resistance if you want to consistently apply those HP burn debuffs to Grythion. So you're gonna need 330 accuracy or higher to consistently apply those debuffs. So here I have him at 425 accuracy. So it's sufficient for even the hardest Grythion. Now I do have my Drexthar fully booked, but as I mentioned, it is not necessary to to book out your Drexthar. His passive works really well just by itself, so don't feel the need to book him out. In fact, save your books. On to Drexthar's Masteries. Now I'm just going to go and highlight a few of them. Life Drinker heals by 5% of damage inflicted when attacking with 50% HP or less. So this is really important because it pairs so well with War Master. So once you get one of those big War Master procs off that does a lot of damage, and you're under 50% health, and you have Life Drinker, you're gonna get a big chunk of healing back. So this works really well with War Master. I talked about War Master earlier, but basically you're getting bonus damage based off enemy max HP. So this along with HP burn is 99% of the damage you're going to do against the boss. So make sure you have War Master. Now you can choose Giant Slayer. So some people say if you have 2 or more hits or 3 or more hits on your A1, then choose Giant Slayer. I've never seen that much of a difference, and I've never seen a gain in damage when using Giant Slayer over War Master, but it's up to you. I personally, just to make things simpler, put War Master on all my characters. Yes, Drexthar has a 3-hit A1. I still put War Master on him. I put War Master on anybody I need that enemy max HP damage. It's just simpler for me. If you guys have noticed bigger damage numbers when using Giant Slayer, let me know. I haven't, so that's why I just stick with War Master. I like things simple. That's just the way I am. All right, here we have Sniper, so increases the chances of placing any debuff from skills or artifacts by 5%. It will not increase the chances of placing stun, sleep, freeze, fear, true fear, or provoke debuffs. We want it for the HP burns, okay? Now, Drexthar does have an attack down debuff on his A2, but it only works with people he provokes, and Grythion cannot be provoked, so that's out of the window. But this is good for that HP burn, so extra 5% on his skills for applying that HP burn. And lastly, Master Hexer has a 30% chance to extend the duration of any debuff cast by this champion by 1 turn. It will not extend stun, sleep, freeze, provoke, fear, true fear, or bomb debuffs. So this is a good one to take if you haven't booked out your Drexthar. So if the chances of landing that HP burn are a little bit lower because you haven't booked him out, and specifically we're talking about his passive, then Master Hexer might be a good way to go for you, just to gain that little bit of increase in the duration of the HP burn when it is applied. On to Grush the Rush. This dude is awesome. I just did a champion guide on him, so I will leave a link below in the description. Check it out. But here I have him in a Perception and Lifesteal set, so very similar to Drexthar, right? The Lifesteal, obviously we're getting the healing, especially from those War Master procs, and Perception because he does have debuffs. He has a really cool Leech debuff on his A1 that's super helpful in keeping your team alive. Basically the damage they do, 18% of it is returned to them as health, okay? He also has a decreased crit damage debuff. Now normally that debuff isn't that good for PvE content. Normally for PvP it's better, but because Grythion with his increasing sky bonds gets a higher crit rate chance, he's going to be critting a lot more, so decreased crit damage is really important. When Grythion gets to 20 sky bonds, he gets double the crit damage and 60% more crit rate. So if you can have crit damage down like Grush gives you, all the better. And he has healing on his A3, so he's just great for keeping your team alive. He's a tough dude, and as I mentioned, the Perception and Lifesteal set required for the healing, but also applying those debuffs. So guys, I mentioned that the hardest Doom Tower Grythion has 330 resistance. So notice here I have accuracy 380. So I'm above that limit, so I should be able to consistently, at the hardest, highest levels of Doom Tower, apply those debuffs to Grythion. So here you're gonna see that I do have my Grush booked out completely. Do I think it's worth it? Yes, especially for his AoE skills, his A2 and his A3, because his A3 6-turn cooldown for that healing, that goes down to 4 turns. So that's really important. Also, his A2, that attack down, crit damage down, that goes from a 5 to a 4 turn cooldown. So I do think it is worth it to book out your Grush. Alright guys, on to Grush's Masteries, and you're going to see something really similar, right? With the Life Drinker working really well with the War Master here, and also with the Lifesteal set. So once again, those 3 work really well together in keeping your guys alive. So on the support tree, I have Lasting Gifts. Has a 30% chance to extend the duration of any buff cast by this champion by 1 turn. It will not extend block damage, unkillable, or revive on death buffs. So here, because Grush throws up those continuous heals, right? Strong version and that bonus weak version if you build Grush with crit rate, which you should. It's great when you get those extended. It's just so much extra healing to get those continuous heals extended. So Lasting Gifts is a good choice for Grush. And here I have Master Hexer. Has a 30% chance to extend the duration of any debuff cast by this champion by 1 turn. It will not extend stun, sleep, freeze, provoke, fear, true fear, or bomb debuffs. So basically I'm extending that leech, and I'm extending that crit damage down, and also the attack down. Okay, so this is good. It's not required for Grush because he is throwing out that A1 a lot, and plus we're gonna have someone else for that attack down. Okay, so this is not a requirement for Grush for this boss, but do I think this is a good mastery for Grush in general? Yes. So this is definitely a good mastery to put on Grush because of all the debuffs he throws out. On to Jereg, the MVP of this composition. So how do I have him geared? Well, Lifesteal and Perception. Why? Well, the Lifesteal, as I mentioned, works so well with those War Master procs, getting you big healing. And plus Perception, because Jereg has that really important debuff that we need. That strong version attack down on his A1. Super important, okay? So whether it's a Perception set or an Accuracy set, you need to build your debuffing characters with accuracy. Now, as I mentioned, the hardest Grythion has 330 resistance. So here you see I have 340 accuracy, just a little bit above it. When I can squeeze it out, I will build my Jereg with a little bit more accuracy just for that consistency. But as it stands, he works out pretty well with this amount of accuracy. So have I booked out my Jereg? Of course. Now, you really need it for his A1 if you're going to use him for an attack down champ. So booked, you have a 60% chance to apply that attack down. Unbooked, 35% chance. It's just not enough. So make sure you book out your Jereg enough to get that A1 maxed out if you're going to use him for that. If that's your main reason for using him for that attack down on the A1, then make sure you book that out. And here, Pack Leader, so we have the Ally Protection, Increased Defense, the reduced cooldown with the book. Just book him out. 7 books. He's worth it. Trust me, just book him out. He doesn't require that much, and he will keep your team alive. Great for Grythion and great for Clan Boss. All right, so he is definitely worth the books. On to Masteries. So you're gonna see something really similar. So here we have that Life Drinker Mastery, plus the War Master, plus the Lifesteal gear. So once again, super great combo for healing and keeping people alive. Now on the support tree, Lasting Gifts. So Jereg does do that ally protection, plus he does a defense up, and he can take it. Jereg can take it. He is taking damage for the whole team, but he's a stud. He can take it. So definitely Lasting Gifts is good for that ally protection and defense up. And I have Sniper on him as well. So increases the chances of placing any debuffs from skills or artifacts by 5%. It will not increase the chances of placing stun, sleep, freeze, fear, true fear, or provoke debuffs. So why do I have this? Primarily for his A1. Because his chance of landing it booked is only 60%. So with Sniper, it raises it to 65%. Now you might be thinking, well, instead of raising the percentage, maybe go Master Hexer, so when it does get applied, it potentially is extended. And that's fine. Either one. But personally, I like Sniper on him just because the chances are a little bit low. And he's going to be doing his A1 a lot. He only has 2 skills. And the other's on a 4-turn cooldown. So he is going to be using his A1 a lot. So I think Sniper for me is the better choice. But nothing wrong at all with Master Hexer for your Jareg. Alright guys, moving on to the healers, and now we got Doom Priest. So why is she in the composition? It's mainly for her passive, Bolster. So heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. So this occurs regardless if Doom Priest is stunned, she's slept, she's frozen, feared, it doesn't matter, okay? Everyone will be healed at the start of a turn for 7.5% of their health, and 1 debuff gets removed from the whole team. So she's like a slow cleanser. She doesn't cleanse everything, but every time she takes a turn, she is going to cleanse. So yeah, it is important that we do cleanse off the debuffs from Grythion, because remember, he throws them back at us, and he also applies that 100% heal reduction. So it's going to be really important that we have someone to cleanse debuffs on our team. And the nice thing about Doom Priest is she just does it automatically. So if you're looking for a more auto-friendly team, you're going to want Doom Priest. Other people can cleanse, but remember, on auto, a lot of times they'll use their cleanse when there's nothing to cleanse. A lot of characters in this game, it's so annoying. So with Doom Priest, she just cleanses 1 debuff for every one of her turns, but once again, much more auto-friendly. So how have I geared my Doom Priest? So you see I have her in a Relentless set, 18% chance to get an extra turn, and a Speed set, plus 12% speed. So that Relentless is really important because every turn she gets, she heals and cleanses, okay? Now, the amount she cleanses is perfect for the amount of debuffs we put up on the boss. Now, if we loaded up the boss with, full debuffs, stacked up, all 10 debuff slots taken, yeah, when he throws it back on us, Doom Priest is not going to be able to handle that with her cleansing power. But with Relentless and with the modest amount of debuffs we're putting on Grythion, she can handle that. Plus, we get the healing, plus if she gets an extra turn with Relentless, we get an extra cleanse and an extra heal. So Doom Priest is just completely awesome for this role. Now, can you use another healer? Yes, but that would be, in my opinion, more of a manual run. So if you want to use Reliquary Tender, Mausoleum Mage, a ton of people with full cleanses. So those are good choices, but as I mentioned, you will probably need to manual the runs, especially on the higher and harder levels of Doom Tower. It's going to be much harder to just bust through Grythion once you get to the higher stages. You're going to start to need to time things, and the computer doesn't time things well enough. You're going to need to do it on your own. But with the amount of debuffs that we place on Grythion and that he throws back, Doom Priest, perfect. So have I booked out my Doom Priest? Yeah. Is it required? Absolutely 100% not, because books don't affect her passive. That is literally the best thing about her. So don't book her out. In fact, it's probably better not to book her out because she'll use her A1 more. And we do have that War Master on, and it looks like we're going to get a server update soon, but don't book her out. Don't worry about it. Save your books. She's awesome without it. Alright guys, on to Doom Priest's Masteries, and you're going to see the offense tree looks really similar to the other characters. So we have Life Drinker here. It's going to heal her big when that War Master proc goes off and she's under 50% health. War Master, of course, for that damage. Remember, 99% of her damage is coming from HP burn and War Master procs. And here, Spirit Haste, increased speed by 8 for each dead ally, stacks up to 24. Not really necessary, but all the other tier 5 masteries aren't really necessary as well. Once again, it's just her passive. And this is why I went up down the left side of the support tree. So the right side of the support tree is more for accuracy. The left side of the support tree is more for the bonus healing. Okay, so since Doom Priest heals just with their passive, you want to focus on the left side of that support tree. Lastly, guys, talking about Seal of the Drakes, awesome login champ, just one of the best revivers in the game, period. Not for the revive, but really her whole kit. And as far as what she does for your whole game, your whole account, she does it all. Okay, she reduces turn meter, she puts speed reduction, she heals every turn just like Doom Priest with her passive. No matter what, all right, even if she's immobilized, no matter what, she heals everyone for 10% of their health on every turn. So she's just awesome. Plus she revives with that ally protection. She can do it all right. So how have I geared her? I have one immortal set on her, so HP plus 15%, heals by 3% every turn, and a relentless set on her, 18% chance to get an extra turn. So it's great on her because if she gets that extra turn, she's healing everybody, including herself, for 10% of the health. Now, her healing is better than Doom Priest, but she does not have that debuff removal. So she doesn't have that cleanse on her, but that healing is big. Once you get those relentless procs and she's going like 2-3 times in a row, just massive healing for the whole team. All right, and that extra immortal set helps her to just stay alive, because your revivers, they need to die last. Why? Because they need to revive other people, right? So they need to be the toughest, they need to be the tankiest, they need to survive. So that extra immortal set, it does help. So have I booked out my Seal of the Drakes? So here you can see, no. Why? Because her passive, which is one of the best things about her, doesn't require books. And that is another great thing about Seal of the Drakes. If you don't have her booked, she's still super useful. Now, is she worth the books? Yes. And definitely, if she is your only reviver, you definitely need to try to book this out, Phoenix Wright. And I know it's random, but you definitely want to book this out, because on a 6-turn cooldown for a single target revive, that's a bit long. So you're going to need to definitely reduce this to that 4-turn cooldown if she is your main reviver, if you haven't pulled anybody better yet. And she is absolutely worth the books. She's absolutely worth booking out. I just don't have any right now. So as you progress in the game, you're going to find a lot of legendary champions. It's going to be challenging to book them out. That's the cool thing about rares and epics. Once you get them, most of the time you can just book them out. You can use them to their max. You can reduce their cooldowns, get those percentages up, whatever. That's why really rares and epics, they are so cool, because you can just max them out immediately. Legendaries, especially if you're free to play, low spender, it might take you a good amount of time to book them out. So I'll just put it that way. But is she worth the books? Yes, especially if she's your only reviver. On to Seal's Masteries. So here we see the offense tree is pretty much the same as a lot of my other characters. The big thing here is you must get War Master, okay? So this is really important because everybody needs to contribute to the damage against Grythion. Everybody, okay? You can't have some random support person in there that is not contributing that War Master damage. That damage is a lot. That damage adds up. That damage, it's awesome because it doesn't matter who is proccing War Master as far as their crit rate, their crit damage, their attack power. It's irrelevant. What matters to War Master is who is being hit, because it's based on enemy max HP. So even someone like Doom Priest, who does no damage at all, once you put War Master on her, she does damage, okay? And same thing with Seal of the Drakes. Seal does not do damage. She's not made that way, but you put War Master on her, and suddenly against those bosses with big HP levels, she can do a good amount of damage. So everybody gets War Master, everybody contributes to the damage against Grythion. And so here are some of the support masteries I have for her. Spirit Haste increases speed by 8 for each dead ally, stacks up to 24. So when people die, she gets a speed boost and she's better able to revive them. Here I have Master Hexer, so potentially extending the duration of a debuff. She has that speed decrease debuff on her A1, so if we can extend that, all the better. And Cycle of Magic has a 5% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn at the start of every turn. So this is really good for your revivers, okay, and your support characters to potentially get that cooldown on their revive if that's needed in the clutch. So this is a good choice for support / revive characters. Alright guys, time to see this team in action. Now, unfortunately, only floor 10 Grythion of the Hard Doom Tower is open right now, but I did want to get this video out to you guys as soon as possible. I thought waiting till the end of the month, floor 90 would just be too long of a wait and you guys wouldn't be able to really take advantage of the information and building out your characters and such. So I wanted to get this information out to you as early as I could. Now, I have used this strategy in this team to beat Hard Doom Tower with Grythion, so I know it works. How does this team work? We have Grush coming in with those big continuous heals and the leech to keep everyone alive, plus he has that attack down and crit damage down. We have Sail of the Drakes. Every turn she's healing people plus reviving if necessary, and she's also applying that speed decrease on her A1. We have Jareg with his A1, the attack down. Once again, we need someone with their A1 to apply the strong version of attack down, and that's what we got Jareg. And he has continuous heals in his kit. He also has ally protection, defense up. He's great. Now you see I have him in the lead position for that extra ally HP in all battles. If you don't have enough accuracy on your team, you can put Drexthar in, okay, because he'll increase your accuracy. But I do have enough accuracy on my team, so I opted for the increase in health. So Jareg, ally HP in all battles, 33%, so great aura for Jareg. Drexthar coming in with the HP burns, okay, even when he's hit, he's burning the boss. Yeah, every 3 turns we get it sent back, but that's why we got Doom Priest. She cleanses it off. We only have to worry about 2 debuffs, really, getting thrown back on us. That is attack down and also the HP burn, both of which Doom Priest can take care of. Also those stuns and the fears that the boss throws out, and also the 100% heal reduction, Doom Priest can take care of it. The boss does not throw them out that much, plus Doom Priest has that relentless set, so she will definitely proc those extra turns to get those extra cleanses and extra healing. Alright guys, that is how to beat Grythion in the hard Doom Tower all levels. The only difference with those higher levels is going to be your gear. Okay, so even if you have the champs, even if you have the strategy, you're going to need really good gear. Hard Doom Tower is meant to be really hard. So any, low level starter gear you have, it might not be good enough. Alright, so as long as you're grinding gear and you're using this strategy and you have these champs or champs that are similar, that can do similar jobs, you should be good against Grythion.